Hello, hello, hello. How are you today? I am feeling great. I had a nice beach day. I think it was Saturday, and then we went on a really nice walk in the mountains on Sunday and ended up with a swim on the beach. This was when this recording comes out, it's probably in a couple of weeks. So the weather would have changed, and we're gonna be in Denmark by then. So I will listen to this and think, why didn't I stay in Spain? It was nice and warm. Anyways, I'm trying to get some recordings ahead of time because I'm going to Thailand 3 weeks in January, and I want to make sure that the episodes come out of a week. I don't want to stop. So I'm trying to get like several recordings in a week, which is a bit weird because then when I talk about I'm doing something, then that would have been a while ago. So it's a bit of a head fuck. Anyway, so I am a member of several Facebook groups about veterinary medicine, for vet techs and vets and this and the other, just so I can kind of see what the discussion currently is and what thoughts people are having around our profession. And there was one post that stood out to me the other day. It was another coach that coaches vets. She was a vet herself, so a bit like my story. And she talked about how perfectionism can be so dangerous for vets. And it shocked me a bit in the comments how many vets actually disagreed with this and were a bit defensive about the whole perfectionism thing. And they challenged it with different thoughts. It was a really interesting discussion. And I thought I would continue it here with my points of view. So you can also give a bit of thought about where you might be a perfectionist, how it might be affecting you, and whether you want to keep that behavior for yourself, right? So one of the answers was to this coach saying, perfectionism can be dangerous and you need to like get your head around it, basically, right? And that can help you. Was a vet said, you need professional development. You need surgical training, radiographic training, step-by-step improvement of areas of professional weakness. I think perfectionists make good vets. And here is why I partly disagree with this. Because we can all agree that perfectionism is some sort of mindset in where you want to be as flawless as possible and thing has to be as perfect as possible. If something is not perfect, it's just not good enough. And here are the three ways where I find that this attitude, this mental state can be incredibly debilitating when you're vet. Because first of all, if you are a perfectionist, you might have a fear of imperfectionism. I don't know if that's a word, but being imperfect, right? And if you have this fear and this anxiety that anything but perfect is wrong, that is gonna put you into fight and flight. That's gonna shut you down. It's gonna compress you. You're not open. You don't feel curious. You don't feel inquisitive. You don't feel like relaxed in what you're doing. And okay, so when you're doing emergencies, you might not be feeling relaxed, but if you feel a certain level of confidence at what you're doing, even if you know it's not perfect, then you don't have that fear shutting you down. The problem with fear shutting you down when you are really worried about things not being perfect enough is that it inhibits your ability to think out of the box, to think on your feet, to make quick decisions, to change whatever you're doing and do something else. For example, if you have an acute abdominal surgery, you go in and you open up and you're like, oh my God, this is not what I expected. Your brain might be thinking, okay, we didn't study for this, we didn't prepare for this, it's not going to be perfect. Now what? Now your brain is just thinking, Jesus, I need to get some other vet in to do this. I need to read up on it. I need to find a YouTube video on how to do this because your brain cannot comprehend or take in the fact that this is not going to be perfect. I'll give an example. When I was running my own clinic, I had a dog come in that literally just been run over outside my clinic, and I needed to stabilize it and do something about it really quick. It was in shock, and it was really bad. And I did an X-ray, and it didn't show the bladder, and there was free fluid in the abdomen. So I decided to stabilize the dog as quick as possible, and then open up and have a look what was going on inside. Did we need to, was there bleeding spleen? Was the bladder there? And I ended up having to reconstruct this bloody bladder, which I had never done before. And it was very scary. But I thought, well, I've done other surgeries. It's probably not going to be perfect. Maybe someone needs to re-repair this at some point, but I just need to stabilize the patient and make sure, it doesn't get a septic abdomen now, and make sure it doesn't get a uro-abdomen and everything starts filling. So let's get this done. And then we can refer to orthopedic surgery later on. Now, if I had been too perfectionist about this case and I open up and I'm like, I've never reconstructed a bladder, I've never done this before, it's ruptured, I don't know what to do, because I'm now worried about what the others going to think about me when they see this butcher job I've done, or am I going to judge myself for it? My brain just wants it to be perfect and it can't be because I have never done it before. I don't have anybody here to tell me what to do. That I might not have helped that dog. Why not been able to think of my feet? What I did was to ask my nurse. I said, "Get Fossum, the surgery book, open it on this page, and let's just go for it. Like, look up, see what sutures might be the best ones. Let's just do our best here, right?" Really aware that this dog was not going to be perfect, but we were going to save its life, right? So you need to be able to think on your feet, and if you're worried about being a perfectionist and how people see you, are you being good enough? Then you just can't think on your feet. And it is so important in vet med. I remember when I was a vet student and I studied in Copenhagen, where I don't know if it's changed now. This is over 20 years ago. So, but the most of the teachers we had, most of the vets there were so nice and they just gave you so much confidence. And they said, okay, so obviously there's so much you don't know, but you're exactly where you're meant to be right now. What you know right now is good for the job you have right here, right now. And I remember being part of team that had to go in. We had a colleague coming in and it was super, super urgent. And this beautiful mare that cost a lot of money. I was with very experienced vets at this point and also students that were senior to me. So I obviously felt like, well, I knew that my level of knowledge and experience was not at that level, but I didn't feel inferior because I was like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I think I was a third-year student. So I'm just going to help out where I can here and obviously not do anything perfect. And I can't remember why, but for some reason there was this big orthopedic mattress was put underneath the mare. It was supposed to lean against her. They were going to do something with it. I can't remember why, but somehow it got underneath the mare and she started stamping on it and got really, really freaked out. And she was so panicky. And I could see the vets kind of like, okay, how are we going to get this mattress away now? Because it was just freaking the holes out more. And I was standing there because I felt like I didn't have to do anything perfect. I was just there to support and do what I could. I just looked down and then I kicked the mattress as hard as I could and it just flew away from the mare underneath her and away, right? So I could think on my feet because I wasn't paralyzed by this fear that I was not as good enough as anybody else and I had to be perfect and show my perfect knowledge. I was like super happy where I was because it was a very supportive and very nice environment I was in. They didn't make me feel stupid in any way. So the fear of imperfectionism can shut you down and make you less able to work properly because you are in fight and flight of fear of not doing things good enough, quote unquote. The second way that perfectionism can be debilitating is that you might fear failure so much that you don't want to try. So one of the baby vets that I have trained, I remember had very little surgical experience from vet school, from the schools you went to. And when I worked with her, she was so afraid of doing things because she knew that she wasn't going to be perfect at it. And despite me giving her a very safe environment and giving her, a full support that I was going to be around, wasn't going to breathe down her neck once she reached a certain point. Let's say, for example, spaying. Um, she was really afraid of doing it because she just had this like different fears of not being good enough and not being able to do it perfectly. And that would shut her down. So she would come up with excuses of, oh, we don't have time, you do it because you're quicker and so on. And I clocked it and I was like, no, in order to get better, you actually have to do these imperfectly. And then when you reach a certain point and you just feel like you're going to shut down, you call me, I come in, I support you. And if needed, I'll take over. And we just did that over and over and over again until she got this fear out of her. So she was able to be a bit more brave. And I'm obviously not saying just like jump in and do any surgery when you don't have a clue, but no matter where you are in your vet journey, I think of this, what this vet said, like step-by-step improvement of areas of professional weakness. Weakness implies that there's something kind of wrong that has not been sufficiently trained. But if you are a young vet, or you're an older vet, and you're put into a situation you just haven't been in before, you don't have experience, I don't see it as a weakness. You are exactly where you're supposed to be with the experience you had. It's not like if you've done 100 spay on female dogs and you're still incredibly bad at it and don't know what you're doing, I think you got a problem. But if you haven't done them yet, or you're not good at it yet, well, that's just where you are right now, right? So you do whatever you can and just make sure you have the support around you to do it, right? I think looking at what you don't know yet as a professional weakness, that definitely points out that there's something kind of wrong with you and you should really hurry to get better at it so it can be more perfect. No? And the third way that perfectionism can be debilitating and contraindicated for a veterinary professional is like it's going to make you unable to absorb feedback, and you're just going to get defensive. Because if nothing less than perfect is good enough, if I then tell you, oh, that spay you did the other day, she came back and the suture was maybe dripping, or it was just kind of like reverted and looked a bit weird, like what did you do? Maybe we need to look at how your suture technique is. If you can't accept that your work is not perfect, you're going to get defensive, and you're going to push the responsibility away and say, oh no, it's because that must be because the dog was too fat, or the owner let it run around, or you're not going to take the responsibility and sit and think, okay, oh, what did I do? Maybe, yeah, you're right, I shouldn't probably have used that technique, or show me what other technique I can use. You're not open for feedback because you're so afraid of what's going to happen if people discover you're not perfect. So you don't assume responsibility for your mistakes or what wasn't maybe that great. And it actually stops your growth. So I think the way you train yourself to get better, to move towards this goal of being more and more perfect, the way you do it, it depends on what your thought driving your action is. If you're thinking, I am not good enough, like I'm not in the right place, I'm stupid, I should know much more, this is not great, everybody around me are better. If you are trying to learn to get better from that point of view, then you're going to be in a rush, and you're going to feel, I need to study more, I need to study more, I need to get more courses, I need to try and get better. And you're doing from this anxious point of view, and then no matter how much you learn, how many courses you take, it is never going to be good enough. Listen, I have seen the most brilliant vets, young vets, so brilliant. Like they could literally like tell you anything. They're such encyclopedias, and they're so willing to learn. But then they will have usually panic attacks because they have something they don't really know how to deal with, and they just shut down because they feel they should have known this by now. And they just wish they had taken this course, or because they've taken so many courses, they can't remember some of it because it's limited how much how much stuff your brain can take in, right? And so if you're coming from this, like, I need to know more, I need to know more, which was my case. I used to do that. I would maybe see something about chronic kidney failure, and then I would see something about soft tissue surgery, and then I would see something about heart ultrasound. And then, my brain would be like, you need to be perfect at all this. And that was so debilitating. And whenever I was in a room with someone who was better than me at something that I felt I should be better at by now, I would just feel so stupid and useless. And I would then feel that they looked down on me, but I don't even think they did. I just think that was in my head because I was judging myself. I was assuming then that they were judging me as well, right? I think the right way to continue your professional development is coming from a place of, I am right where I'm supposed to be. I am 1 year in, 2 year in, I'm a vet student, or I'm 10 years in, whatever it is. And there's these things that I can do, but I'm not that great at them. And it would be amazing if I was even better at them. If you've followed me for a while, you know that I am not that good at doing ultrasounds because I somehow ended up being in clinics that didn't have an ultrasound machine. And then when I then got to hospitals that had it, because I felt so bad and so stupid for not knowing how to use it, I would avoid using it at any cost. Like I would literally do like x-rays, tests. I would come up with all sorts to avoid doing ultrasounds until I accepted that I wasn't really good at it. and I didn't make it mean anything about me. And I now know that I will probably never be perfect at doing ultrasounds. Like the only person I know who's perfect at doing ultrasounds, it's a Spanish specialist, Rafael Romero. Shout out to you. In on the Spanish coast, that he can literally diagnose anything. He's done nothing else for so many years now. He has this machine that is so expensive. That's all he does day in, day out. He's so good. I would say he's perfect, but to get to his level, I would have to do nothing else for 20 years. That doesn't make any sense. I have to accept that whatever level I have at doing ultrasound, it's gonna be good enough. And obviously then I'm gonna question whatever I do in a sensible way. So if I do, for example, a scan, now I can tell there's a bladder, I can tell if there's free fluid, if there's a big mass in the spleen, I can see it, I can have a look at the kidney structures. There's some things I know, and then there are other things that I know I don't know. And then if I'm in doubt, then I will do something else. I would say I will maybe wait for a colleague to come in to do it in the morning. If it's more urgent, I will have to do an X lab and open it up, right? And it could be that if I had specialized, been obsessed with ultrasounds and done a lot of courses in that, I might not have taken time to get better at surgery, for example, and I might have been fearful going into X labs. But sometimes the dog needs an X lab. It doesn't need an ultrasound. So what's best now? Right. There is a lot of ambiguity in vet med, and it's very rare that you are gonna have the perfect step-by-step thing case where it comes in, you get the perfect history, you get the perfect diagnostics, you have all the money in the world, you do the perfect treatments, and you have a perfect animal at the end. It happens, and let's all celebrate that when that happens. Clap your hands. But when it doesn't, then blaming yourself because it wasn't perfect is not going to help anyone. The last point I want to make is when you're a perfectionist and things go wrong, you will tend to beat yourself up a lot afterwards. And when brain knows that when we go into a situation, you're going to be mean to yourself afterwards, that's when the brain is really going to stop you trying to do it. And that comes back to then the way you receive feedback, the way you fear failure, so you don't even want to do the thing. And when you go into it, you get paralyzed so often because you know that it's probably not going to be perfect. And when we come out, brain is going to beat itself up and just come out saying all these mean things like you're useless, you should know more, you should have done this, why don't you, and this mean talking to ourselves. That is when perfectionism is debilitating. If you have a lot of confidence in yourself and you just so relaxed, you're fully grounded, and you're just like, I want to be perfect at this, but it comes from this like excitement and passion, and I want to be the best vet ever, and I'm just going to keep going until I get there. It's different, right? That's Braveheart energy. That's not me sitting in a corner being fearful because I'm not good enough, and I need to be perfect so everybody can look at me and think I'm a good vet and nobody will judge me and I won't be mean to myself afterwards. That's coming from this sense of lack, that I'm not good enough, and that will never be filled up. If you have that mentality, if you're in that emotional state, no matter how many courses you take and how much you study and how much you advance, if you're coming from a sense of lack and not from a sense of, I just want to get even better because it's so much fun when I don't have to refer them and I can do it by myself and I'm so proud of myself, they're two different, very, very different angles you come in at this perfectionist tendency, okay? So I want you to think about, well, I don't want you to do anything. Again, you can do whatever you want, of course, you're an adult. But if you struggle a bit with this, it would be really fun if you could think about, where am I beating myself up because I'm not good enough at something? And where am I coming from when I think this? So if you, for example, are afraid of bit space, which I know a lot of vets are, like, why am I afraid? What am I afraid is going to happen? Obviously, you might be afraid the dog could bleed out, but I mean, you've got colleagues around you can ask, right? So where is it you're afraid? And how are you dealing with it? And where are you maybe not taking feedback and responsibility for the things you're not good at yet? And where might you be stopping yourself from getting better by coming up with excuses to not do it so you don't have to beat yourself up afterwards? All right. I hope this episode was helpful and at least giving you some food for thought about why you feel you need to learn all the things you feel you need to learn. Yeah. So hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will keep bringing the episodes and recording them so I can get to my holiday in Thailand and not thinking about being perfect, not thinking about doing anything, just letting go and switching off, which I'm able to do now. I was saying to my husband the other day, I'm looking so forward to going now because when I've been on holiday in the past, my brain has been so busy digesting everything that I've gone wrong working or looking like into the future for coming back. Like, oh my God, when I come back, there's got so much to do. So I wasn't actually able to ever being present and enjoying my holidays. Of course, I enjoy a bit of it, but there would just be so much mental clutter going on while I was away. And I feel now about 4.5 years in to this like coaching journey that I am at a point now where I can just completely switch off. Brain will come in and say, "Oh, did you write this email?" And I'll be like, "Shut up." Our brain will come in and remind me of some case that'll probably be a complaint line for my comeback or something like that. And I can just switch off completely now and not needing to be doing anything else than what I'm doing in this moment. That's what I wish for you too. So I hope these episodes can help you. If you haven't downloaded my free PDF about the 10 hacks to overcome burnout and prevent burnout in VetMed, remember the link to that is in the show notes. Follow my newsletter as well, where I send out all sorts of things that are happening to me and how I deal with them. And click on the follow and subscribe to this podcast as well. So you make sure you don't miss any episodes. That was all. Take care. Bye.